How you doing? I'm Mockery TV, and I am a NA Grandmaster Tracer player. I've been playing the character for a few years now, and I've put out a few videos about previous Tracer patches in the past. I've generally gotten, I think, a pretty decent read on how they've gone, and recently Tracer was changed again. The patch that I'm looking at here is for March 2nd, so I am a little bit behind on the curve, to be honest. That does mean that I've had some time to check out most of the changes, see how they feel, but my opinion remains largely unchanged from just when I read them the first time. So if I look in here, we're just going to go change by change and talk about all of them. Um, let's see, just going right into it. Melee, right at the start here. Pulse bomb charge generation reduced from 612 to 510. Tracer players, for when you first look at that, it might look really weird, and you might be like, what does that mean? 612, 510, those are both equivalent fractions, for example. All that means is that you used to get 6% pulse bomb charge when you hit non-heroes. Now you get 5% pulse bomb charge when you hit non-heroes. So 1% off when you hit non-heroes. And you used to get 12% when you hit heroes. Now you only get 10%, so 2% off when you hit heroes. This change barely matters. Like, I consider this negligible. Pulse bomb, your target damage increased from 288 to 298. I think it's in the exact same boat, honestly. 10 more damage on Pulse Bomb. That's nice, and maybe sometimes it'll get you a kill, but it's whatever. I consider these first two changes basically to not even be there. Moving on, level 1 Parting Gift. So Parting Gift, undeniably buffed in almost every use case. If you're just trying to kill one person, it can actually be a little bit worse with 10 damage off, but just like with 10 damage going to Pulse Bomb, 10 damage coming out of Parting Gifts, it's whatever. The bombs increasing is nice. We got extra pulse bomb charge on Parting Gift. We got slowing of heroes who are hit by 60%, but just for a very small amount of time. The thing is, I still think the Parting Gift is going to suffer from the exact same problems that it already did before, where Parting Gift baits you into using your recall at bad times, and a lot of times you really need your Parting Gift into certain matchups, and to bail you out of getting caught, or to enable you to make dive plays. And Parting Gift, I still doubt its consistency, honestly, even with this, even with the buffs. It's just so rarely ever going to actually matter. I did a video talking about this before where I actually went and watched a bunch of HTC Tracer games. I watched 30 HTC Tracer games of some of the best players in the world back with old Parting Gift. And what I found was that just in the limited amount of time that I had watched, they lost more kills going for Parting Gift kills than how many they actually generated from using the talent. And I don't think that really changes here. I think that it's going to bait you into bad play. I think it's not going to consistently give you a lot of extra kills. What actually does intrigue me about Parting Gift, though, is that in Storm League, macro is king. Macro is everything. And if Parting Gift gives you the ability to clear waves even somewhat decently when your teammates just are not doing it, then maybe this will be decent for Storm League. You know? Maybe this gives you slightly better bruiser clear. Maybe this gives you a little bit better wave clear. I remain extremely skeptical. I don't think it's going to be a good talent. I still think it's going to be bad for the same reasons as before. The slow, for example, you're in recall for 1.25 seconds. The slow's not really going to make a big difference in generating kills for yourself. The slow's only going to matter when you're really using it to help out your teammates, either through peeling them or through trying to generate kills. The slow itself, I don't really see mattering a lot. The damage, it went down a little bit. I don't really care about that change. I don't think it changed much. 7% pulse bomb charge. The thing is, you get more pulse bomb charge out of Tracer rounds from hitting more often due to max range increase, or from 1-2 punch from getting more melees out. So those are also bonus charge. I think it's still bad. I have not played New Parting Gift, however. I will completely give that disclaimer there. That is my impression of it. I am skeptical, but I can't firmly say that I've tested it and found it to be terrible. But that is my impression, and I've talked with a couple of the Tracer mains, and we're kind of in the same boat there. Moving on to level 4, we have Leaching Rounds. And Leaching Rounds is kind of weird. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about what the old functionality was. So Leaching Rounds used to be that it gave you a little bit extra lifesteal on heroes, and then the more blink charges that you had... Let me pull up Heroes patch notes here. So we can see, yeah, see, increase the life leech on your basic attacks by 5% for each blink charge that you currently have. So what it was before, yeah, and then they added on just a baseline 5%. So just picking the talent at all added 5% to your baseline lifesteal, bumping you up from 10% to 15%, and then every stack of blink that you had was extra lifesteal. And the thing is, that wasn't very good, especially because a lot of times when you need lifesteal is when you don't have blinks, and a lot of times blinks, you use them to not miss health. Like, you use them to dodge abilities or to get in positions that will cause you to not lose health. So you're kind of in this weird situation where you didn't want to use blinks, but you did want to use blinks, and it was very counterintuitive to playing Tracer well. If it increased your lifesteal if you were missing blinks, the talent would have been a lot better, but it just wasn't good. So now here, instead of that, what it does is it increases the healing from your basic attacks by up to 200%, increasing based on Tracer's missing health. So just to be clear before, old Leaching Rounds gave you a maximum of plus 20% healing if you had all three of your blink charges missing. And Leaching Rounds is the exact same way. If you have hypothetically minimum HP, then it gives you like 1 HP, and it would give you plus 20% healing, because your baseline healing from your auto attacks is 10% thanks to your trait, and so 200% of 10% is another 20%. So it still only gives you the hypothetically max amount of healing, but overall will typically give you less healing than before. Because think about it now. With new Leaching Rounds, if you are at half health, then you'll get half the bonus. It's a linear scale. So if you're at half health, you get half the bonus. So if I'm at 50% HP, then I'm getting an extra 100% lifesteal. So really I'm getting an extra 10% of my damage as lifesteal. I'm doubling the existing 10%. Whereas before with Leaching Rounds, if I were missing one blink, I would get 10% lifesteal. And the thing is, Tracer in teamfights is almost always missing at least one blink. A lot of times you're missing more than that even. So, or if I had one blink, I would get 10%. So it was, yeah, that's how it worked, because it was increased based on the amount of blink charges you had. So if I had one blink, I was getting 10% lifesteal. Whereas in order to get the lifesteal here with Leaching Rounds, Tracer needs to be at 50% just to get even 10% bonus healing. And the thing about Tracer is, as your HP goes down, your ability to auto-attack also goes down. Tracer has a uniquely small hero pool, and isn't really able to poke with her auto-attacks, especially because her range is only 5, and she needs to constantly stay in range rather than being able to dip in and out of range like a Hanzo, who can just start his attack animation and like barely dip in, start his attack animation, dip back out, barely dip in. No, Tracer has to stay in attack range in order to be able to get lifesteal out, and Tracer is very, very burstable because her health pool is so small. So lifesteal is not that good on Tracer when her effective HP is very low. This is part of the reason why Task Tracer used to work so well, is that Tassadar, in addition to giving you lifesteal, would also give you a big burst of effective HP whenever he would shield you, that made you able to use that lifesteal better. So it's harder and harder to make value out of lifesteal the more HP that you're missing. I think that in reality, new Leaching Rounds a lot of times is going to actually amount to being less bonus healing than what old Leaching Rounds was, which was already a garbage talent, and I think it got worse. The only difference is that new Leaching Rounds right here applies to non-heroes. Old Leaching Rounds, if you'll remember, increase the basic attack, increase the healing from basic attacks against enemy heroes by an additional 5%. So it buffed your lifesteal against heroes. New Leaching Rounds buffs your lifesteal against everything, depending on how much HP you're missing. So hypothetically, if you get zoned out of the fight and you start hitting minions or you start hitting structures, Leaching Rounds is going to help you claw your way back in, but like, I just don't see that even being remotely as good as Pulse Generator. Alright, moving on. Is that a health pack? So Is That a Health Pack has always been the globe talent for Tracer. Before the rework, I actually recommended that people pick it. But now it's just not nearly as good. So what it is that a health pack? Or rather, it's not nearly as relatively good, because Tracer's competing 4s got a lot better in the rework, whereas Tracer's 4s before the rework were a very weak tier. So Tracer's 4 now, Is That a Health Pack? It got changed. So what it used to be, again, we're going to establish what it used to be before we move on, is that, yeah. So Tracer's health pack used to be, right before this rework, that all of your globes and healing fountains had double healing. And whenever you picked up a globe, whenever you tapped a healing fountain, you got double value in the same amount of time, but all the ticks would heal for double. So it didn't double the amount of time, it doubled the healing. And in addition to that, they added on an effect where when you pick up regeneration globes, it actually lowered the cooldown of tapping your healing fountain. Well, that meant that Is That a Health Pack had one very specific scenario where it was arguably the best talent. Is That a Health Pack was really, really good for when, at the start of a fight, you would tap your healing fountain and then run straight in the fight, and you just have this huge extra bonus health bar. Because if I remember correctly, a healing fountain is 40% of your HP, so doubling that 40% to add on another 40% HP actually really increased your health bar in a fight, so that could actually give you more health in a fight, assuming you pre-tapped perfectly, than Pulse Generator would. In addition to making your laning phase slightly easier and giving you taps more often, so you got more opportunities to use those pre-taps, there was actually a situation where I would argue that Is That a Health Pack was the best talent. Now, Is That a Health Pack, they actually changed it a bit. New functionality, drinking from a healing fountain instantly heals Tracer for 20% of her max health. So before, remember, what it used to do was it added on 40% HP just over the duration of the tap. Now, when you tap a healing fountain, rather than adding 40% over the duration, it just instantly heals you for 20%. So if you're using this for pre-tapping, where you go in, you tap it while you're at like 90-95% HP, and then you run into the fight, this is now completely terrible for that use case. The use case of pre-tapping got completely killed by this change. And so this is less healing overall, and all the healing is front-loaded, which is terrible for pre-tapping. Then new functionality, collecting a regen globe instantly heals Tracer for 10% of our maximum health and reduces the cooldown of healing fountain by 15 seconds. So this part was in the previous Is That a Health Pack before. That's good. This part right here, collecting a regen globe instantly heals Tracer for 10% of our max health. The thing is that these things help Tracer's laning phase a bit, which were like nice bonuses to Is That a Health Pack, but they were not the point of Is That a Health Pack. The only way that Is That a Health Pack was ever going to be a better pick in a scenario than Pulse Generator is if you were using it to get those pre-taps. That sort of specific use case just completely got nuked. And so now I think Is That a Health Pack's win rate might actually go up. I haven't bothered to check the statistics, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if this means that Is That a Health Pack is a better talent in general. If you're just picking it regardless of the competitors, it might perform better now. It's more lane sustain. But lane sustain wasn't what made it good. If you just want general sustain, Pulse Generator is going to beat Is That a Health Pack every time. So now Is That a Health Pack has no scenario where it's the best level 4 talent anymore. So it might be better as a general pick if you're just picking it for no reason, but there's no reason to pick the talent anymore. Alright. Let's look at 13 right here. These are the last of the changes. They just changed the 13s, and they actually changed every talent on the tier. So Untouchable. Untouchable is a takedown quest. The more takedowns that you get 5% bonus attack damage for every takedown, and whenever you blink, you get a short movement speed increase for a few seconds. So the maximum damage bonus was reduced from 30% to 25%. Honestly, this change is not that big. This just means that instead of capping out at 6 stacks, you now cap out at 5 stacks. And if you have Untouchable and you have it at 5 stacks, you're already in a really good boat. Untouchable is a talent you pick when Tracer's in a very favorable situation. And if you've got that many stacks, you are generally in a position where you are dominating. If this is a talent you pick in good situations, and when you stack it, you're in a good situation, making you go from like a great situation to like a minorly less great situation, whatever. You know, the win rate's going to go down a little bit, and this was consistently Untouchable, was consistently Tracer's highest win rate, 13 on ladder. Regardless, I still think this is going to be the talent that you pick when you are in super favorable situations, and it's still going to be good in those. It's just going to be slightly less good when you're stomping, which is like, okay. Jumper, on the other hand. Jumper got buffed. So Jumper is a talent that when you have no blink charges remaining, it increases the cooldown rate of your Q, of your blink. So it minimizes the amount of time that you spend without any blinks at all, which is also counter synergy with the old Leaching Rounds that we mentioned before, which gave you synergy based on having a bunch of blinks. And it sucked because a lot of times you wanted to pick Jumper, and that like extra made Leaching Rounds bad, even though it was already bad, because it's like Jumper, you get a lot of value when you're on low blinks, Leaching Rounds, you get a lot of value when you're at high blinks, a lot of value, some value, and so forth. So, Jumper was Tracer's most consistent 13. I mentioned that you pick Untouchable when your situations are favorable. Jumper was what you picked by default and in the competitive environment, and it got massively buffed right here. The cooldown reduction increasing from 125 to 150. I did the math, and in pretty realistic scenarios, a lot of times this will take off about a quarter second off of your Q cooldown. And getting a quarter second off your Q cooldown every time you cast it actually equates to a lot more blinks throughout the fight. In addition to that, increasing the shield amount from 6% to 8% of your maximum health. It's pretty realistic throughout a fight to blink like 5 or more times, and adding on 2% of that every time, this is like an extra 10% max HP for Tracer, which is a massive buff. Jumper was already your best competitive 13, it was already your most consistent 13, and it got giga buffed. In my opinion, this is basically the only change that matters in the whole list. You know, like I mentioned, melee pulse bomb, these changes are basically negligible, don't really care about them. Parting gift, I still don't think it's going to be good. Leaching rounds is a bad talent, and it's still a bad talent. Is that a health pack was a bad talent? It's still a bad talent. Untouchable was a talent you picked when you're stomping, and it's still the exact same talent. It's still going to be good in that scenario. Jumper was a talent that was actually in your build. It was actually the pick, and it got better. And not just a little bit better, it got way better. So in my opinion, I haven't gotten to the last talent yet, but in my opinion, this patch is a big net buff to Tracer, specifically because of this jumper change right here. Massive amount of extra HP. I don't know if I'd say massive, a very significant amount of extra HP in fights and mobility. It's absolutely huge. Again, huge might be pushing it, but either way, significant buff. Telefrag. All right, let's see. So Telefrag, for those of you who do not know, Telefrag was an ability, a talent that lowered the cooldown of your recall whenever you auto-attacked. Let me see right here. I actually picked it so little that I want to verify something really quick. Let's see. Yeah, so it's just basic attacks on anything, not on heroes. Okay. So basic attacks with recall, or with Telefrag, lower the cooldown of your recall. Anytime you basic attacked anything. By quite a lot, too. You can see it was by, right before the change, by 0.3125 seconds per attack. And you attack 8 times a second. When you normalize for reloading, you attack 5 times a second. So you took a lot of time off of your recall CD. This even synergized with Ricochet, so even the Ricochet hits counted for Telefrag. And this was still Tracer's by far lowest win rate talent in her entire tree. I'm talking, this was consistently like a 39% win rate talent. And it also had the boost that when you recall, wherever you pop back up, there's a little knockback and there's some extra damage. It barely did anything. Higher uptime on recall used to be something that I actually would suggest back a couple of reworks ago for Tracer. I was like, oh, that would be a really cool trait. Having your recall uptime is massive. But recall also got kind of heavily nerfed with the rework. The one that actually gave Tracer Pulse Generator and Lifesteal and whatnot. Recall now takes you off the map for so long, 1.25 seconds. It only recalls 2 seconds of time. So it's nowhere near as good for enabling dive. It doesn't make you as safe. It's much more easy to kill you coming out of recall. Having it up more often isn't the same kind of boost that it maybe was, or maybe could have been in previous iterations of Tracer. Telefrag was consistently your worst talent. And so what they did was they massively cut the cooldown reduction that you get from Telefrag in this change. They bumped up the damage a little bit under 10%. From 160 to 175, so the damage on your recall point, the thing that, like, didn't ever matter. And then they added the functionality that on your recall, Tracer becomes unkillable for 1 second after arriving at the recall location. And I'm gonna be honest, this change almost never matters. Like, it will almost never make a difference at all. This will very rarely ever save your life. It'll very rarely ever make a difference. I think, my gut reaction, I'm not picking this talent. It's so bad, and this does not make it, there's no chance in hell that this makes it even a pickable talent, especially when Jumper got, like, giga buffed. But it honestly wouldn't surprise me if this talent got worse after these changes. So just to look at the Tracer patch in totality, you have 2 changes that don't matter. Another change that I'm highly skeptical of, but maybe I need to do my own video about it. Bad talent got nerfed. Bad talent got nerfed. Again, maybe their win rates go up in general use, but there's no reason to ever pick these talents. There was a reason to pick Is That a Health Pack? No longer. So, bad talent got nerfed, bad talent got nerfed. Good talent got like slightly nerfed, but still good in good scenarios. The talent got significantly buffed, and Telefrag, maybe the worst talent in the tree, probably got nerfed. So I don't know. I think that this is a very interesting patch, but my net verdict is going to be a net buff for Tracer, a rather significant one. When you take Jumper, you're going to be great, and when you take Untouchable, you're already going to be great anyway. This is going to short Tracer up and bump her up a little bit. She's definitely stronger than she was before. Alrighty. That took a little while, but I thank you for sticking with me throughout all of it and hearing my thoughts. Maybe we'll do a parting gift video. Who knows? We'll see. But go ahead and try these out, and if you think I'm wrong, just let me know. But either way, try it out, let me know how it goes, and I'll see y'all later.